The entire pack stood in complete silence. Hundreds of wolves filled the great stone courtyard beneath the towering silver banners of the Nightbane pack. Warriors lined the outer walls with their spears planted firmly against the ground. Elders watched from the council platform, their faces unreadable. Every eye was fixed on one woman, Alina Ravenshade. She stood alone in the center of the courtyard, her hands trembling even though she fought to hide it. The morning wind tugged gently at her long silver blonde hair, but she refused to lower her head. Across from her stood the man who had once promised she would never face the world alone. Alpha Ryker Nightbane. His broad shoulders remained perfectly still beneath his black ceremonial cloak. His golden eyes met hers, but there was something unfamiliar in them today. Not hatred, not love. Something heavier. Something buried so deeply that no one could read it. Between them lay an ancient scroll. The Scroll of Exile. Once she signed it, she would no longer belong to the Nightbane pack. No title, no home, no protection, no right to return. One signature would erase every trace of the life she had known. An elder stepped forward. Alina Ravenshade, you have one final chance. Remain within this pack and accept the council's judgment, or leave these lands forever. A murmur spread through the crowd. Everyone expected her to beg. Some expected tears. Others waited for Ryker to stop this madness. Instead, Alina reached for the quill. Gasps echoed across the courtyard. Even the warriors shifted uneasily. She dipped the feather into black ink. Ryker's fingers tightened behind his back. She noticed. For the first time that morning, she looked directly into his eyes. I once believed this place was my home, she said softly. Her voice carried across the silent courtyard. I was wrong. Without another word,
she signed.
Her name flowed across the parchment in steady strokes. Alina Ravenshade. The seal ignited with pale blue light. The bond between her and the Nightbane pack shattered. A cold wave swept through the courtyard. Several wolves instinctively stepped backward. The moon herself had witnessed the choice. The elder rolled the scroll closed. It is done. No one spoke. No one moved. Then Alina removed the silver pendant hanging around her neck, the symbol of the Nightbane pack. She walked toward Ryker. Every step echoed against the stone. When she stood before him, she placed the pendant in his hand. It belongs to someone who still has a home. For a heartbeat, Ryker almost reached for her. Almost. Instead, his hand slowly closed around the pendant. Alina smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had finally stopped hoping. Then she turned. Without looking back, she walked through the great gates. The heavy doors closed behind her. The sound echoed through the valley. And for the first time in years, the Alpha realized silence could hurt more than any scream. But no one saw the shadow watching from the distant cliffs. A lone rider, hidden beneath a white cloak, watching Alina disappear into exile, watching with quiet patience, as though he had been waiting for this exact moment. 3 days earlier, the Nightbane pack had been preparing for its annual moon festival. Laughter filled the village. Children chased one another between market stalls. Musicians tuned their instruments beneath glowing lanterns. Alina smiled as she carried baskets of herbs toward the healing lodge. Everyone knew her, not because she was powerful, not because she came from an important family, because she never ignored anyone's pain. An elderly wolf greeted her with tired eyes. My knee again. Alina laughed softly. I thought we agreed you wouldn't climb ladders anymore. I tried. You failed. I did. She knelt beside him and spread fresh herbs over the swollen joint. A faint silver glow warmed her fingertips. Within moments, the pain eased. The old wolf sighed with relief. You always give more than you receive. She smiled politely. I already have everything I need. The old wolf glanced toward the Alpha's residence. Do you? Before she could answer, a horn echoed across the valley. 3 long blasts. Not a celebration. A summons. Every conversation stopped. Villagers looked toward the council hall. Messengers hurried through the streets. Warriors abandoned their training. Alina frowned. Council meetings were never announced during the Moon Festival. Something was wrong. She hurried toward the square. By the time she arrived, nearly the entire pack had gathered. Ryker stood beside the elders. His expression remained unreadable. Lord Varric Nightbane stood only a few steps away, pretending to look concerned. Alina had never trusted him. His smiles never reached his eyes. Elder Thorn unfolded an ancient parchment. A threat has risen beyond our eastern border. Whispers spread instantly. The Shadowclaw Alliance has begun attacking smaller packs. Fear swept through the crowd. Elder Thorn continued. Our scouts have also discovered something else. He hesitated. They are searching for woman. Silence. They believe she carries the forgotten blood of the Moon Crown. Confused murmurs filled the square. Most wolves laughed. The Moon Crown bloodline had become little more than an old story told to pups before bedtime. Lord Varric stepped forward. Legends have a dangerous habit of becoming reality. His eyes drifted toward Alina for only a second. So quickly that almost no one noticed. Almost. She noticed. A chill crept down her spine. Why had he looked at her? Ryker noticed it too. His jaw tightened ever so slightly. But before anyone could ask questions, another messenger burst into the square. He was covered in dust. His breathing was uneven. He dropped to one knee. My Alpha. They've crossed the border. The entire courtyard erupted. Warriors rushed toward the armory. Parents gathered their children. Orders echoed through the village. Ryker immediately took command. Seal the eastern gates. Double the border patrol. No one leaves the territory. His voice remained calm, confident, exactly what his people needed. Yet, as the crowd scattered, he looked toward Alina. Just for a moment, their eyes met. Something unspoken passed between them. Not fear, not anger, regret. Then he turned away before she could read his expression. From the balcony above, Lord Varric smiled. A smile no one else saw, because the first piece of his plan had fallen perfectly into place. And before another sunrise, someone inside the Nightbane pack would be accused of treason. The question was, who had chosen the victim? The word Silver Wolf hung in the council chamber like a curse. No one spoke. The silence felt heavier than the accusation itself. Alina searched every face around her. Elder Thorn looked troubled. Captain Kellen looked uncertain. Lady Celestine lowered her eyes, hiding a satisfied smile. Lord Varric appeared deeply concerned, though the gleam in his eyes betrayed him for the briefest moment. Only Ryker remained impossible to read. Alina swallowed the lump in her throat. You all know someone is trying to frame me. No one answered. She took another step forward. I've lived among this pack since I was a child. Every injured warrior, every sick elder, every frightened pup. I've helped them without asking for anything in return. Her voice trembled, but she refused to let tears fall. If I wanted to destroy this pack, I had hundreds of chances. Why would I wait until now? Captain Kellen exchanged a glance with Elder Thorn.
It was a reasonable question.
Lord Varric folded his hands behind his back. Sometimes the greatest betrayal comes from the person everyone trusts. Alina turned sharply toward him. You've wanted me gone from the day I arrived. Varric's expression never changed. Careful, child. Accusing a council member without proof only weakens your position. She laughed bitterly. My position? She looked around the chamber. I don't have one anymore. Ryker finally broke the silence. No decision has been made. Alina faced him. Not yet. He held her gaze. I need time. She stared at him in disbelief. Time. The evidence. Evidence that appeared overnight? The council must investigate. And until then? His answer came after a long pause. You will remain under guard. The words landed like a blade. Not because they were cruel, because they came from him. Captain Kellen stepped forward reluctantly. My Alpha. Ryker didn't look away from Alina. It's only until the truth is found. Alina gave a faint smile. A person is innocent until proven guilty. Another pause. Unless she's me. Without resisting, she extended her wrists. You don't have to force me. Kellen's face tightened. I never wanted this. I know. He gently placed silver restraint bands around her wrists.
Not chains.
Still, every wolf watching understood what they meant. She was no longer trusted. News spread through the Nightbane pack before sunset. Some wolves refused to believe it. Others accepted the rumors without question. A few whispered that they had always found Alina strange. That was how fear worked. It rewrote memories. Outside the council hall, small groups gathered. Did you hear? They found enemy markings. I always wondered why her healing gift looked different. My brother said she never belonged here. Each rumor became more outrageous than the last. No one stopped to ask whether any of it was true. Alina was placed inside a small stone chamber beneath the council hall. The room wasn't built for criminals. It was used to hold witnesses during investigations. A single narrow window overlooked the forest. She sat quietly on the wooden bench. Her wrists rested in her lap. She replayed the last 2 days again and again. Who had entered her cottage? Who knew where she kept her belongings? Who benefited from destroying her? One face appeared every time. Lord Varric. But suspicion wasn't enough. She needed proof. The iron door creaked open. Captain Kellen stepped inside carrying a tray of food. He placed it on the table. You should eat. I'm not hungry. You haven't eaten since dawn. She forced a small smile. You've always worried too much.
He sighed.
You saved my sister. I remember. I owe you my family's happiness. Then help me. He looked toward the closed door. I wish I could. You don't believe I did this.
No.
She looked up. You don't. He shook his head. I've fought beside liars. I've arrested murderers. I've watched wolves betray their own blood. He met her eyes. They all avoided looking people in the face. You haven't looked away once. Hope flickered inside her. Then tell Ryker. I already did. Her expression changed. What did he say? Kellen hesitated. He said believing isn't enough. Silence returned. After a moment, Kellen reached into his cloak. I wasn't supposed to show you this. He unfolded a map. It marked the eastern forests. There. He pointed toward a forgotten trail. Our scouts found footprints yesterday. Alina leaned closer. They weren't made by Shadow Claw warriors. Whose were they? We don't know. The tracks disappeared. She frowned. Disappeared? As though whoever left them knew exactly how to avoid being followed. Someone had entered Nightbane territory. Someone skilled. Someone who wanted to remain unseen. Before Alina could ask another question, a horn echoed across the fortress. One blast. Then another. Captain Kellen stood immediately. Stay here. He hurried out. The heavy door slammed shut. Above ground, panic spread through the village. A patrol had returned. One warrior stumbled into the courtyard covered in blood. My Alpha. Ryker caught him before he collapsed. What happened? We found the western watchtower. And the warrior struggled to breathe. It was empty. Ryker frowned. What do you mean empty? The guards. His voice broke. They vanished. No bodies. No signs of battle. Nothing. Only abandoned weapons scattered across the ground. Lord Varric stepped beside Ryker. They've begun. Ryker's eyes narrowed. Send every available scout. Captain Kellen immediately gathered his soldiers. Within minutes, wolves disappeared into the surrounding forest. The village prepared for war. But hidden among the chaos, a hooded figure quietly climbed the northern wall. No guard challenged him. No wolf noticed. He carried a small leather pouch. Inside rested a silver pendant. The same pendant Alina had lost years ago while gathering herbs in the eastern woods. A pendant no one knew still existed. The stranger stopped beneath the moonlight. He opened the pouch. The pendant glowed faintly.
Blue.
Not silver.
Blue.
He smiled beneath his hood. So, he whispered to himself. We finally found her. Then, without another sound, he vanished into the darkness before anyone realized the Nightbane pack had already been infiltrated. The council chamber was so quiet that even the crackling torches sounded loud. On the stone table rested 2 ancient scrolls. One bore the seal of trial by council. The other carried the silver crest of voluntary exile. According to Nightbane law, no wolf could be forced to choose either path. The decision belonged to the accused alone. Elder Thorn looked at Alina with sadness. You have until sunset. She nodded once. I understand. The elders slowly filed out of the chamber, leaving only Ryker, Captain Kellen, and Alina behind. For several moments, no one spoke. Kellen finally broke the silence. My Alpha, I need another day. Ryker looked at him. Why? I've found too many things that don't fit. The missing records. The stolen guard uniforms. The horse. The footprints. Someone is moving inside this pack without being seen. Ryker listened carefully. So find them. I will. Before sunset? Kellen's shoulders fell. I can't promise that. Ryker closed his eyes for a brief moment. Then he said something that surprised them both. You're dismissed. Kellen hesitated. He looked from Ryker to Alina. I won't stop looking. Alina gave him a grateful smile. I know. Once the captain left, only the two of them remained. The distance between them felt greater than the width of the chamber. Ryker slowly walked toward the window, overlooking the valley. The first time you came here, you were covered in mud. Alina blinked. What? You were 12. You tried to rescue an injured wolf cub trapped beneath a fallen tree. Despite everything, she smiled faintly. You remember that? I remember everything. His voice was almost a whisper. You yelled at me because I scared the cub. You deserved it. I probably did. For a moment, it felt as if the years between them had vanished. Then reality returned. Alina's smile faded. If you remember all of that. She swallowed. Why can't you remember who I am now? Ryker turned to face her. I do know who you are. Then prove it. He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. She waited. Again, silence. Her eyes filled with disappointment. I kept hoping you would choose me. His heart sank. But every time, you choose your fear instead. She turned and walked toward the door. Before she reached it, Ryker spoke. If exile is offered.
She stopped. His voice was low.
Take it. She slowly looked back. For the first time since the accusations began, there was unmistakable fear in his eyes. Not fear of losing power. Fear of losing her. Why? She asked. He looked away. I can't explain. Then don't ask me to trust words without truth. She opened the door and left. Ryker remained standing alone. His fists tightened until his knuckles turned white. You have to hate me, he whispered to the empty room. It's the only way you'll survive. Outside, the village no longer felt like home. The same streets where Alina had spent years helping others now seemed colder. Children who once ran to greet her stayed close to their parents. Some wolves looked guilty. Others refused to meet her eyes. One elderly woman stepped forward. Mrs. Nora. Years ago, Alina had saved her grandson from a deadly fever. Nora reached into her basket and quietly handed Alina a small loaf of bread. I don't believe what they're saying. Alina's eyes softened. You shouldn't be seen helping me. I've lived long enough to know that crowds are often wrong. She gently squeezed Alina's hand. Whatever happens, don't lose the kindness that makes you who you are. Before anyone noticed, Nora walked away. Alina watched her disappear into the market. She didn't realize someone else had witnessed the exchange. Lady Celestine. A satisfied smile curved across her lips. By evening, Nora's family would also become targets of suspicion. Anyone who stood beside Alina would be made an example. Meanwhile, Captain Kellen returned to Alina's cottage. This time he came alone. He ignored the front door. Instead, he circled the small house. The grass near the back fence had begun to grow again after recent rain. Most wolves would have walked past without noticing. Kellen knelt. A single boot print. Not Alina's. Too large.
Too deep.
Someone had stood outside the rear window for a long time. He followed the trail into the trees. It disappeared beneath fallen leaves. Then, something caught the sunlight. A broken clasp. He picked it up. It was made of black iron. The Nightbane guards didn't wear black iron. Neither did ordinary villagers. But the council guards did. His expression hardened. Someone with access to the council had been here. Far beyond the Nightbane border. A lone rider guided a white horse through towering pines. His cloak concealed his face. At his side hung a sword unlike any forged in the southern packs. Its silver hilt carried the crest of a snow wolf beneath a full moon. He stopped beside a quiet stream. Waiting there was a gray-haired woman. She bowed her head respectfully. "My Alpha." He removed his hood. Sharp blue eyes scanned the forest. "Speak." "The signs are beginning." "And the girl?" "She has been accused."
His jaw tightened.
"So it has started." The prophecy was true. The woman nodded. "They're driving her away." He looked toward the southern horizon. "Then prepare the northern gates." The woman looked surprised. "You truly believe she'll choose exile?" He answered without hesitation. "She would rather lose her home than lose her honor." A faint smile crossed his face. "And when she crosses our border, she will not walk alone." As sunset approached, the council bell echoed across the fortress. Every wolf gathered in the great courtyard. The two ancient scrolls rested on a stone pedestal. Trial or exile. Nothing else. Alina stepped forward. She looked around one last time. The healing lodge, the training grounds, the market, the home she had built, the memories she had cherished. Then her eyes found Ryker. He stood beneath the Alpha's banner. His face remained calm. Only his eyes betrayed him. For the briefest moment, he silently pleaded with her. "Please, choose exile." She frowned.
"Why?"
What danger could possibly be worse than abandoning everything she loved? Without another word, Elder Thorn held out the quill. The entire pack held its breath. Alina reached for it. And in the crowd, Lord Varric smiled. Because no matter which scroll she signed, he believed he had already won. He had no idea that beyond the mountains, another Alpha had just begun his journey toward the Nightbane pack. Alina wrapped her fingers around the quill. For a heartbeat, everything disappeared. The whispers, the accusing stares,
The fear.
Only two paths remained. One ended with a trial built on lies. The other ended with a road she had never walked. She looked toward Ryker one final time. His expression hadn't changed. Yet his eyes carried the same silent plea.
"Please don't stay."
She finally understood one thing. He wasn't asking her to surrender. He was asking her to survive, even if he refused to tell her why. Alina lowered the quill. Its tip touched the parchment. In one steady motion, she signed her name beneath the scroll of exile. The ancient symbols carved into the scroll burst into silver light. A cold wind swept through the courtyard. Every wolf instinctively lowered their head. The moon goddess had accepted the choice. Elder Thorn closed the scroll with trembling hands. By the ancient laws of the Nightbane pack, Alina Ravenshade is no longer bound to this territory. The words echoed across the silent courtyard. No one cheered. No one celebrated. Even those who had demanded her punishment suddenly looked uneasy. The reality of what had just happened settled over them. They hadn't watched a criminal leave. They had watched someone lose her home. Alina unclasped the silver cloak that marked her as one of the Nightbane pack. She folded it carefully, then placed it on the stone altar. "I leave with nothing that belongs to this pack." Her voice remained calm. "But I will keep the lessons it gave me." She bowed respectfully to the elders. Then she turned toward Ryker. For several seconds, neither of them moved. She stepped closer, close enough that only he could hear her. "I hope one day you find the courage to tell the truth." Before he could answer, she walked past him. His fingers twitched. Every instinct screamed at him to stop her, to tell her everything, to expose the conspiracy, to admit why he had remained silent. Instead, he stood perfectly still, because if he spoke now, she would die. The massive gates opened. Alina crossed the border alone. The heavy doors closed behind her with a deep, thunderous sound. She didn't look back, not once. The road ahead disappeared into endless forest. She had no destination, no family waiting, no allies, only the clothes she wore and a small leather satchel resting against her shoulder. As evening settled over the mountains, the forest grew strangely quiet. No birds, no insects, only the sound of her footsteps. She tightened her grip on the walking staff Captain Kellen had secretly left outside the gate before dawn. He hadn't spoken to her. He hadn't needed to. It was his quiet way of saying goodbye. Hours passed. The sun disappeared. The air became colder. Finally, exhaustion forced her to stop beside a narrow stream. She knelt to drink. The icy water reflected the full moon above. For the first time all day, she allowed herself to cry. Not loud, not uncontrollably, just enough to release the weight pressing against her chest. I did everything I could, the forest answered with silence. She wiped away her tears. I'm done begging people to believe me. A sudden snap echoed behind her. She stood instantly. Someone was there. The trees remained still. She slowly backed away from the water. Another branch cracked. Closer. Her heartbeat quickened. Who's there? No answer. Only footsteps. Steady. Unhurried. A pair of glowing amber eyes appeared between the trees. Then another. Then 3 more. Wild rogues. 5 of them. Their clothes were torn. Their wolf scents were sharp with hunger. The tallest one stepped into the moonlight. Looks like tonight is our lucky night. His companions laughed. Alina kept her voice steady. I don't want trouble. You crossed the wrong forest. We'll take your supplies. Another rogue smirked. And maybe more. She tightened her grip on the staff. I'm warning you. The leader laughed. You think one healer can stop 5 wolves? Before she could answer, one rogue lunged. Alina spun aside, striking his shoulder with the wooden staff. He stumbled but quickly recovered. The others circled her. There was no escape. She couldn't outrun wolves. She couldn't fight 5 trained rogues. For the first time since leaving the Nightbane pack, fear returned. The leader smiled. Finish this. The rogue shifted. Bones cracked. Massive wolves landed on the forest floor. Their growls surrounded her from every direction. Alina slowly closed her eyes. Not in surrender. In prayer. Moon Goddess. If this is where my journey ends, give me the strength not to die afraid. A deafening howl shattered the night. Every rogue froze. The sound didn't belong to any of them. It came from deeper within the forest. Another howl answered. Then another. The ground trembled beneath heavy paws. The rogues looked around nervously. What was that? No one answered. Suddenly, a huge white wolf exploded from the darkness. He crashed into the nearest rogue before anyone could react. The impact sent both wolves rolling across the forest floor. Another white wolf appeared. Then another. Then 6 more. The rogues scattered in panic. The battle lasted less than a minute. When the silence returned, every rogue had fled. Alina stood frozen. The white wolves surrounded her. Not threatening. Protecting. The largest wolf stepped forward. His icy blue eyes never left hers. Something about them felt familiar. Ancient.
Wise.
He slowly shifted into human form. Moonlight revealed a tall man wearing a white cloak trimmed with silver fur. His long dark hair rested against broad shoulders. A sword hung calmly at his side. He didn't reach for it. Instead, he bowed. Not as a warrior. As one ruler greeting another. Alina stared at him in disbelief. I don't know you. He lifted his head.
No.
His voice was calm and steady. But I've known your name. For 20 years. The forest fell silent once more. Alina's heart pounded. How could a complete stranger know her? The man offered his hand. My name is Alpha Frostclaw. I've been waiting for you. And somewhere far behind them, inside the Nightbane pack, Ryker looked toward the northern mountains. His wolf suddenly lifted its head. As if it already knew, Alina was no longer alone. Alina didn't move. Her eyes remained fixed on the stranger standing before her. The moonlight reflected across his white cloak, making him seem almost unreal. Around him, the white wolves lowered their heads in quiet respect. None of them showed the slightest sign of aggression. Even so, She kept her distance. You said you've been waiting for me. Her voice was calm, but guarded.
How?
Alpha Evander Frostclaw didn't answer immediately. Instead, he removed his cloak and draped it over the shoulders of the youngest warrior whose arm had been cut during the fight. Only after making sure his own warrior was unharmed did he turn back to her. I'll answer every question. His expression softened. But not while you're standing in the middle of a forest where rogues know your scent. Alina glanced toward the dark trees. The rogues had fled. That didn't mean they wouldn't return. Evander noticed her hesitation. If I wished you harm, he smiled faintly. I would have watched instead of helping. She couldn't argue with that. He extended his hand again. You've walked far enough alone. After a long pause, Alina accepted. Not because she fully trusted him, because for the first time in days, someone had offered help without demanding anything in return. Several hours later, the trees opened onto a breathtaking valley. Alina stopped walking. Before her stood an enormous fortress carved into the mountainside. Unlike the dark stone walls of the Nightbane Pack, this castle shimmered beneath the moonlight. Silver towers reached into the clouds. Crystal lanterns illuminated wide stone bridges. Waterfalls poured from the cliffs surrounding the fortress. The entire kingdom seemed peaceful. She whispered without thinking, "It's beautiful." Evander smiled. "Welcome to Frostclaw." The massive gates began to open before they even reached them. Dozens of warriors lined the entrance. Alina instinctively tensed. She expected suspicious stares. Instead, every warrior lowered a fist over their heart, then bowed. Not to Evander. To her. She looked around in confusion. What are they doing? Evander answered quietly, showing respect. For me? For the woman our kingdom has waited many years to meet. She stared at him. What does that mean? You'll understand. Eventually, inside the fortress, servants hurried through bright hallways carrying warm blankets and trays of food. No one whispered. No one pointed. No one questioned why she was there. One elderly woman approached with gentle eyes. You must be exhausted. She smiled kindly. My name is Briar. I oversee the royal household. Before Alina could respond, Briar wrapped a warm shawl around her shoulders. You'll catch a chill wearing wet clothes. The simple act nearly brought tears to Alina's eyes. No suspicion. No accusations. Just kindness. It had been so long since she'd felt it. After a hot meal and fresh clothes, Evander invited her to a quiet balcony overlooking the valley. Snow-covered peaks glowed beneath the full moon. Neither of them spoke for several moments. Finally, Alina broke the silence. Who am I to you? Evander rested his hands on the stone railing. You are someone my father told me about before he died. She frowned. My parents never mentioned your family. They couldn't. Why? They believed speaking our names would put us in danger. Her heartbeat quickened. My parents knew you? They trusted my father with something precious. He turned toward her. You. She froze. What? When you were 3 years old. Our families met in secret. My father swore that if anything happened to your parents, the Frostclaw Kingdom would become your sanctuary. Alina shook her head. That's impossible. I would have remembered. You were too young. She searched his face for any sign of deception. She found none. If that's true, why didn't anyone tell me? Because someone wanted every trace of your past erased. Far to the south, Lord Varric stood inside his private chamber. A messenger knelt before him. My lord. She's gone. Varric calmly poured himself a drink. I know. We lost her trail near the northern border. He smiled. That was expected. The messenger looked confused. You expected her to escape? I expected someone to collect her. The messenger's face drained of color. You mean the Frostclaws? Varric nodded. They've protected that border for generations. They've been waiting. The messenger swallowed nervously. What should we do? Varric's smile slowly disappeared. Prepare every spy we have. I want eyes inside Frostclaw before the week is over. And if they discover the truth. He looked toward the northern mountains. Everything we've spent 20 years hiding will collapse. The following morning, Princess Alina Frostclaw burst into the breakfast hall with infectious energy. So, this is Alina. Without hesitation, she hugged her. Alina blinked in surprise. Alina stepped back with a grin. My brother never tells me anything. I've imagined this moment for years. Evander sighed. You've known her for exactly 3 seconds. I already like her. She smiled warmly at Alina. Anyone who survived my brother's serious face deserves a medal. For the first time since leaving the Nightbane pack, Alina laughed. A real laugh. Not forced. Not polite. Just genuine. Evander watched quietly. Something inside him eased. She had smiled. That mattered more than she realized. Later that afternoon, royal historian Rowan Vale requested a private meeting. He carried an old wooden chest covered in dust. I believe this belongs to you. Alina looked confused. I've never seen it. You haven't, but your mother did. Her breath caught. My mother? Rowan gently placed the chest on the table. The lock can only be opened by someone carrying the Moon Crown bloodline. Evander looked toward Alina. So,
he said softly.
Would you do the honors? Her hands trembled as she reached toward the ancient lock. The moment her fingertips touched the silver symbol, a soft blue light spread across the entire chest. Then came the unmistakable sound.
Click.
The lock had opened.
Inside
Rested a faded letter, a silver crown unlike anything she had ever seen, and a small embroidered blanket, folded carefully beneath them. On one corner, stitched in elegant silver thread, was a single name, Alina Aurelia Valerian. She stared at the words. Her entire life, she had believed her name was simply Alina Ravenshade. So who was Alina Aurelia Valerian? And why had someone hidden her true identity for 20 years? Alina couldn't take her eyes off the blanket. Her fingers brushed across the silver stitching. Alina Aurelia Valerian. The name felt unfamiliar, yet something deep inside her stirred. A memory too distant to grasp. She looked at Evander. I don't understand. I've been Alina Ravenshade my whole life. Evander didn't answer. Instead, he looked toward Rowan Vale. The truth belongs to history. It should come from the man who protected it. Rowan nodded. He carefully lifted the faded letter from the chest. The wax seal had cracked with age, but the emblem was still visible. A crescent moon resting above a crown. I was told this letter could only be opened by its rightful owner. He handed it to Alina. Her hands trembled as she unfolded the brittle parchment. The handwriting was elegant. The ink had faded, but every word remained clear. To our beloved daughter, if these words have found you, then the life we dreamed of giving you has already been stolen. Never believe you were abandoned. We loved you from your first breath until our last. The name Ravenshade was never yours. It was given to protect you. There are wolves who fear what your blood carries. One day, when the moon chooses the hour, seek the kingdom of Frostclaw. There you will find those who kept the promise we could no longer keep. Do not hate those who failed to tell you the truth. Some carried silence because they believed it would save your life. Live with kindness. Lead with mercy. The crown was never meant to rule through fear. It was meant to give hope. Forever your mother and father. A tear slid silently down Alina's cheek. She pressed the letter against her heart. She had spent years wondering why she remembered so little of her childhood. Now she understood. Her past hadn't been forgotten. Had been hidden. Rowan gently lifted the silver crown from the chest. It wasn't large. It wasn't covered in jewels. Its beauty came from its simplicity. Moonstones circled the delicate band. Each stone shimmered with pale blue light. This is the crown of Valerian, the last symbol of the Moon Crown bloodline. Alina stared at it. I've never ruled anyone. Rowan smiled kindly. Neither did your parents. She looked confused. What? The Moon Crown family were never conquerors. They united packs that had spent generations at war. They healed kingdoms. They ended bloodshed. They believed strength without compassion eventually destroys itself. Evander added quietly. That's why they were feared. At that very moment, hundreds of miles away, Captain Kellen finally found what he had been searching for. Deep inside the abandoned archive room, one loose stone refused to sit flat against the wall. He pried it loose. Behind it rested a narrow compartment. Inside lay a leather journal, covered in dust. The front carried the royal seal of the former Alpha Ryker's father. Kellen carefully opened the first page. His eyes widened immediately. The first sentence read, "If anything happens to the Valerian child, trust no member of this council." His heartbeat quickened. He turned another page, then another. Every entry pointed toward one name, Lord Varric. Without wasting another second, Kellen ran toward the Alpha's residence. He burst through the doors. "My Alpha." Ryker looked up from the map covering his desk. "What happened?" Kellen placed the journal in front of him. "You need to read this." Ryker opened it. The further he read, the paler his face became. His father's handwriting left no room for doubt. 21 years earlier, a conspiracy had begun inside the Nightbane pack. One council member had secretly worked with outside forces to eliminate the Moon Crown bloodline, not because they wanted revenge, because they feared anyone who could unite the packs. Ryker slowly closed the journal. His voice was barely audible. "My father knew." Kellen nodded. "He knew. And he kept records." "He did." Ryker looked toward the northern mountains through the window. "So, everything," he whispered, "was true." Back in Frostclaw, Alina wandered through the royal gardens, trying to make sense of everything she had learned. The scent of white roses drifted through the cool afternoon air. She stopped beside a quiet pond. Her reflection stared back at her. The same face, the same eyes. Yet somehow, she felt like a stranger. Footsteps approached behind her. It was Princess Alina. She carried 2 cups of warm tea. "I thought you might need company." Alina accepted one gratefully. They sat together on a stone bench. For several minutes, neither of them spoke. Finally, Alina smiled. "You know what I noticed first?" "What?" "You apologize every time someone helps you." Alina blinked. "I do." "You thanked the servants. You thanked the guards. You even thanked me for bringing tea." Alina looked down. "I've always believed I shouldn't be a burden." Alina gently shook her head. "That's not what I see." "What do you see?" "A woman who's spent too many years believing she has to earn kindness." The words settled deeply inside Alina. No one had ever said that to her before. That evening, a banquet was prepared in her honor. Not because she was royalty, because Frostclaw welcomed every guest the same way. Laughter echoed through the great hall. Music filled the room. For the first time in many days, Alina allowed herself to relax. Then, the enormous entrance doors burst open. A border scout rushed inside, covered in dust. He dropped to one knee before Evander. "My Alpha." Evander stood immediately. "What happened?" "The southern border." "What about it?" "We intercepted 3 spies." The hall fell silent. The scout continued. "They weren't crossing into Nightbane. They were coming here." Evander's expression darkened. "Did they say who sent them?" The scout nodded. "They carried one message." "What message?" The scout looked toward Alina. His answer sent a chill through the hall. "They said, 'Bring back the last Valerian alive.'" He swallowed hard. "Or don't come back at all." The room became deathly silent. Someone wasn't trying to kill Alina anymore. Someone wanted her captured.
Alive.
But for what purpose? And, before anyone could answer that question, a servant hurried into the hall carrying another sealed letter. "There is one more message, my Alpha." Evander accepted it. The seal bore the crest of the Nightbane pack. Ryker had finally broken his silence. The great hall fell silent. Every eye followed the sealed letter in Alpha Evander's hand. The black wax carried the unmistakable crest of the Nightbane pack. No one spoke. Evander studied the seal for a long moment before breaking it. He unfolded the parchment. His eyes moved quickly across the page. The calm expression on his face slowly disappeared. Princess Alina noticed first. "What is it?" Evander looked toward Alina. "This letter is for you." Her heartbeat quickened. "For me?" He walked across the hall and gently placed the parchment in her hands. It's written in Ryker's own hand. Alina stared at the familiar handwriting. For a moment, she couldn't bring herself to read it. Then she unfolded the letter. Alina, if this letter has reached you, then you crossed the northern border safely. I prayed you would. You have every reason to hate me. I deserve it. There are things I should have told you long before the council accused you. I remained silent because I believed silence would protect you. Instead, it only wounded you. Years ago, my father discovered that someone inside our council was hunting the last survivor of the Moon Crown bloodline. Before he died, he made me swear an oath. If the day ever came when that child was discovered, I was to protect her at any cost, even if protecting her meant losing her forever. When the accusations began, I realized the enemy already knew who you were. If I defended you publicly, they would never let you leave the pack alive. Exile was never your punishment. It was your escape. I hoped one day you would understand. I don't ask for forgiveness. I only ask that you stay alive. Ryker. A single tear slipped down Alina's cheek. She folded the letter carefully. The pain hadn't disappeared. Neither had the betrayal. But for the first time,
Some of his choices made sense.
he knew. She whispered. Evander nodded. He knew enough to fear what was coming. Alina looked up. Then why didn't he trust me with the truth? Evander answered honestly. Because fear often convinces good people that carrying a burden alone will protect the ones they love. He was wrong. Yes. He should have trusted me. He should have. Neither man tried to excuse Ryker. Some mistakes couldn't be softened. Far to the south, Ryker stood in the abandoned archive room. The leather journal remained open on the table. Captain Kellen entered carrying another bundle of old records. I found more. Ryker looked up. What are they? Council attendance logs. Kellen spread them across the table. One name appeared again and again. Lord Varric. Whenever important records disappeared. Whenever witnesses vanished. Whenever investigations were abandoned. Varric had been present. Kellen pointed to another page. This one is interesting. Ryker leaned closer. 22 years earlier, a royal envoy from the Moon Crown Kingdom had visited Nightbane. He never returned home. Official records claimed he died during a rogue attack. Kellen quietly placed another document beside it. The envoy's horse had been found. His sword had been found. His body never had. Ryker slowly looked toward the door. How many lies has Varric buried? Kellen's answer came without hesitation. Enough to build a kingdom. That same night, Lord Varric welcomed unexpected guests beneath the fortress. 3 hooded figures entered the underground chamber. None removed their cloaks. One stepped forward. Has she reached Frostclaw? Varric nodded. As planned. The stranger smiled. Good. Varric frowned. You don't seem disappointed. We never intended to stop her. Silence filled the chamber. Varric's eyes narrowed. What are you talking about? The stranger laughed quietly. You've served your purpose. The words struck Varric like ice. I've spent 20 years preparing this. And now you've delivered the Valerian heir exactly where we wanted her. For the first time in years, Lord Varric looked uncertain. What game are you playing? The hooded figure stepped closer. The same one we've been playing from the beginning. Before Varric could react, the stranger disappeared back into the darkness, leaving him with more questions than answers. Meanwhile, inside Frostclaw Castle, Alina couldn't sleep. She stood on the highest balcony, overlooking the snow-covered mountains. Ryker's letter remained folded inside her cloak. She wanted to hate him. Part of her still did. But another part remembered every quiet kindness, every promise, every smile. None of those memories erased what had happened, yet they refused to disappear. Footsteps approached behind her. It was Evander. He carried 2 cups of warm berry tea. I thought you might still be awake. She accepted one with a grateful smile. I keep wondering if I should have stayed. Evander looked toward the stars. If you had, you would have walked into a trap. You sound certain. I am. She studied his face. You know more than you're saying. I do. Then tell me. He remained silent for several moments. Finally, my father left me something.
What?
A map. He reached into his coat and unfolded an old piece of parchment. Across the center stretched the territories of every major pack. Most borders looked familiar. One location didn't. Hidden deep within the mountains, far beyond any known kingdom, a silver circle had been drawn. Beneath it were 4 words. The First Moon Sanctuary. Alina frowned. I've never heard of this place. Almost no one has. What is it? Evander's voice became unusually serious. It's where the first Moon Crown rulers were chosen. She looked at him. Does it still exist? No one knows. Then why are you showing me this?
He pointed toward the map.
Because according to every surviving record, only one living person can open its gates. Alina slowly looked back at the ancient parchment. Right beside the silver circle, someone had written a single name, Valerian. Before she could ask another question, a loud bell rang from the northern watchtower.
Once. Twice.
3 times. Evander immediately looked toward the fortress wall. That signal meant only one thing. An army had appeared at the border. But when the guards looked through their spyglasses, their faces turned pale. The banners approaching the Frostclaw Kingdom were not carried by enemies. They belonged to the Nightbane pack. And at the front of the column, riding alone without royal escorts, was Alpha Ryker Nightbane himself. The Frostclaw gates remained closed. Snow drifted across the mountain pass as hundreds of Frostclaw warriors formed 2 disciplined lines along the fortress walls. Every bow was raised. Every sword remained sheathed. They would defend their kingdom, but they would not strike first. Alpha Evander stood at the front of the gate. Alina and Princess Alina remained a few steps behind him. Captain Soren Blackridge approached from the watchtower. My Alpha. Evander turned. Report. There is no army.
What?
Only 20 riders. Evander frowned. The banners made them appear larger. And Ryker? He's at the front. Any siege weapons? None. Any hidden soldiers? Soren shook his head. We searched every ridge. Nothing. Evander nodded once. Open the outer gate. The great iron doors slowly parted. Ryker guided his black horse forward. He stopped several yards away before climbing down. He came alone. No sword in his hand. No shield. No guards beside him. Only Captain Kellen followed several paces behind, carrying a leather satchel. Evander stepped forward. You've crossed into Frostclaw territory. I know. Why are you here? Ryker looked past him. His eyes found Alina. Relief flashed across his face. She was alive. For several seconds, neither of them spoke. Finally, Alina broke the silence. You wrote that Exile was my escape. It was. And now you've followed me. I had to. She folded her arms. You've said that before. This time. He slowly reached for the satchel. I brought proof. Captain Kellen handed him several old journals, sealed records, and faded maps. Ryker placed everything on a stone table. The conspiracy began before either of us were born. Evander stepped closer. So you've finally uncovered it. Ryker looked surprised. You knew. I knew part of it. But not enough. Kellen opened the oldest journal. It belonged to Ryker's father. Alina recognized the handwriting immediately. Page after page described secret meetings, missing royal messengers, and attempts to erase every record connected to the Valerian family. Then Kellen unfolded one final document. Everyone gathered around. It was a family tree. At the very top, the Moon Crown rulers. Below them, one surviving branch. The name Valerian. Then, Alina's parents. And beneath them, her name. There was no doubt anymore. She truly was the last living heir. Silence settled over the mountain pass. Princess Alina quietly whispered, So it's true. Alina stared at the document. She had searched her whole life for where she belonged. Now the answer lay before her. Instead of bringing peace, it brought another question. If everyone believed my family was gone. She slowly looked up. Why keep hunting me? Ryker answered first. Because your bloodline carries something greater than a crown. Before he could explain further, a slow clap echoed across the valley. Every warrior spun toward the cliffs. One figure stood alone above them. Lord Varric. He smiled as though he had expected this gathering all along. You finally found the truth. His voice rolled down the mountainside. What a touching reunion. Captain Kellen stepped forward. Your game is over. Varric laughed. You still think I created this game? His words stopped everyone. You framed Alina. You destroyed her family. You manipulated the council. Kellen's anger echoed through the valley. Varric simply shook his head. I played my part, but I was never the one giving orders. The wind suddenly shifted. Dozens of hooded figures emerged from hidden paths among the cliffs. They surrounded the valley from every direction. Not rogues. Not Nightbane. Not Frostclaw. None wore the symbols of any known pack. Evander's expression darkened. I know those cloaks. Ryker looked at him. You've seen them before? Only once. When I was a boy. They were supposed to be extinct. The leader stepped forward. His hood concealed most of his face. Only his cold gray eyes remained visible. He looked directly at Alina. Welcome home, Your Highness. Alina frowned. I have no home with people who hunt innocent wolves. The stranger smiled. You misunderstand. We never wanted you dead. We wanted you ready. Ryker drew his sword. You won't touch her. The stranger barely looked at him. You still believe this story is about the Nightbane pack? It never was. He slowly removed his hood. A long scar crossed one side of his face. My name is Magnus. I am the last guardian of the First Moon Sanctuary. Every warrior stared at him. Magnus looked toward Alina. Your ancestors sealed away something centuries ago. They believed no single ruler should ever possess it. Evander quietly finished the sentence. The Moon Heart. Magnus smiled. So, you've heard the stories. Alina looked between them. What is the Moon Heart? No one answered immediately. Finally, Elder Rowan, who had arrived with the Frostclaw delegation, spoke. It isn't a weapon. It isn't a crown. It is an ancient covenant. The ruler chosen by the Moon Heart cannot command wolves through fear. They can only lead those who follow willingly. Magnus nodded. And that is exactly why ambitious men spent centuries trying to erase your bloodline. Lord Varric lowered his head. I failed. Magnus looked at him without emotion. You served your purpose. With one swift movement, Magnus raised his hand. The hooded warriors surrounded Varric. For the first time in decades, the man who had controlled everyone else realized he had never been in control himself. He dropped to his knees. I did everything you asked. You promised me power. Magnus answered coldly. I promised you opportunity. You confused the two. The hooded warriors escorted Varric away. He shouted. He struggled. No one moved to help him. His own ambition had become his prison. Silence returned to the valley. Magnus turned back toward Alina. The choice now belongs to you. You can continue running from your past, or you can discover why the moon chose your family in the first place. He placed an ancient silver key upon the stone table. The gates of the First Moon Sanctuary have remained closed for over 200 years. They will only open for the last Valerian. Magnus stepped back. My duty is finished. Without another word, he and the hooded guardians disappeared into the mountain mist. The valley became quiet once more. Alina looked at the silver key, then at Ryker, then at Evander. Ryker stepped forward first. He lowered himself onto one knee, not as an alpha, as a man who knew he had failed the woman he loved. I can't erase what I did. I can't give you back the home you lost. But I can spend the rest of my life proving that my silence was my greatest mistake. He lowered his head. I don't deserve your forgiveness. I only ask for the chance to earn your respect again. The valley remained silent. Alina walked toward him. Ryker never lifted his eyes. She stopped in front of him, then gently placed the folded Nightbane pendant into his hand. I forgive you. His shoulders shook. But forgiveness isn't the same as returning. He slowly looked up. She offered him a small, peaceful smile. The woman who left your pack isn't standing here anymore. I have a different path now. Ryker closed his fingers around the pendant. Though it hurt, he understood. Some journeys couldn't be reversed. Evander stepped beside Alina. So, he asked softly, where do we go from here? Alina picked up the ancient silver key. She looked toward the distant mountains where the first moon sanctuary waited beyond the clouds. The morning sun broke over the peaks. Its golden light covered the valley. For the first time in many years, she wasn't walking away from something. She was walking toward her future. And this time, she would choose it for herself. If Alina's journey touched your heart, let us know in the comments. Do you think Alina made the right choice by leaving, or should she have given Ryker another chance? We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like this video, share it with fellow werewolf romance fans, and subscribe to Alpha and Luna Romance Library for more unforgettable Alpha and Luna love stories filled with betrayal, redemption, powerful heroines, shocking twists, and satisfying endings. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss our next story. Until next time, stay safe, keep believing in second chances, and remember, sometimes the path that feels like the greatest loss is the one that leads to the destiny you were always meant to find.